How to graph data using the Excel or the spreadsheet functions of Google. So here we have our data, and this is the height of the stick, and it casts a shadow, and this is the length of the shadow. So this little diagram here just kind of shows you. Here's the height of the stick, and we're measuring how long the shadow is for different sticks. So I'm just going to delete that graph, that image to get out of the way. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to highlight your data. Whatever data is in the first column is going to be on the x-axis, the second column is going to be on the y-axis, and make sure you include the titles in your highlight. Go up to the Insert menu, and you're going to insert a chart. Google brings up all the chart options, and it's not always right, so you've got to be careful. Under Setup over here, make sure the chart type is scatter. Google kinds of guesses what you're looking for, and if it's not a scatter, scroll down to where it says scatter and make sure you choose scatter. And then here, make sure the x-axis is the height of the stick, and make sure the y-axis, which they call the series, is the length of the shadow. So that all looks good, and here's your graph. That looks nice. Now we're going to go to Customize over here. We're going to do a whole bunch of customizations. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to go to the horizontal axis, expand that dialog, scroll down a little bit, and where it says minimum, we're going to make that 0, because right now, if you can see, here's 4, here's 2, 0 is not shown on this graph, and we don't want to break the axis. I'm going to put 0 in there, and you'll see the graph now readjust so that it goes all the way to 0 on the x-axis. It already goes to 0 on the y-axis, so I don't need to worry about that. So now I can collapse this dialog for horizontal axis. The next thing we're going to do is look at the titles. So right here it says Chart and Axis Titles. The chart title, we can type it right here. And so we are going to say the relationship between the shadow length, remember we always do y and then x, so I've got to spell length here, L-E-N, shadow length and the stick height for sticks in the sun, or something like that. We've got to have a title with context. Okay? Now you can go to Subtitle, and on the subtitle, put your name. Put sort of delimiter, doesn't matter what you use. Put the date, so this will be August 6th, 2020. Put the period, so this is whatever period you're in class. And this is lab, unit 1, lab number 3. Okay, and that'll be a subtitle. And then you can mess with those a little bit. There's some options down here. You can make that centered, for example, if you want. On the horizontal axis title, it got it right because I had it in the header right. But we need to list the quantity and the units that it's measured in. So this is the height of the stick in inches. And on the vertical axis title, let's make sure this is right. This is the length of the shadow, also in inches. So those titles look correct. All right, so we're good with there. Now the last thing we're going to do is we're going to go to Series. And under Series, if you scroll down a while, you can see a box for trend line. So trend line is where it draws a best fit line. And so there you can see the best fit line on the data. If you scroll down a little more, under trend line, you have label. And if you choose use equation, it will show you the equation. Okay, so it's right here, and it's a little hard to read. But what this means is y equals 1.4x plus 1.42 times 10 to the negative 15. Okay, so from this we can get the slope and the intercept. The slope is 1.4, so I'm going to go ahead and write that down. The slope is 1.4. And now I want you to look at the intercept. It's not 0, but it's 1.4 times 10 to the negative 15. That's 0.00000, 15 zeros and then a 1. That is so close to 0, we are going to ignore it. Okay? So in general, if this graph looks like it's hitting at 0, we're going to ignore the intercept. All right? So I'm going to call the intercept 0. So now I need to write the math model with proper equations. So down here on trend line, I used equation to get the equation of the line, Now I'm going to go to custom and I'm going to write my own formula. So right down here where it says custom label, we are going to write y, which is the length of the shadow. So I'm going to put L for length of shadow equals the slope 1.4 times x, and on the x-axis I have the height of the stick, so I'll use h. And since there was basically no intercept, I'm not going to put plus 0. I mean, you can put plus 0, but you don't need it. Okay? So that is our math model. You get it from the equation, and then you change it to a custom label. All right? So that's my math model. And then I'm going to go scroll up here and collapse series because I'm done with that. And then under legend, for position, if you put it inside, it puts the math model inside the graph, which is a nice place to have it. And then you can actually change the font size a little bit if you want to make it a little bigger so it's easier to see. And you can change its color and stuff. But you can't change this right here where it has this blue dot with length of the shadow. Google doesn't allow you to change that. That comes from the title right in this box here. All right, so just leave it there. Here's the math model. The length of the shadow equals 1.4 times the height of the stick. And then you are done with that. And then you need to write your conclusion. So in this case, the math model is that the length of the shadow equals 1.4 times the height of the stick. And we would say the length of the shadow is directly proportional to the height of the stick. That is our conclusion. That's the relationship we found. Okay? And then you can go through the checkbox down here to make sure you got everything. You've plotted the data. You fit it with a linear model. You showed 0, 0 on the plot, so we changed the scale, so we got 0, 0 on the plot. We have our labels. We have a complete title. We have a subtitle. We have the math model shown on the graph. We changed the variables of the math model, so they're not x and y. We don't need to worry about this one because we had a straight line when we plotted it. Later on, we'll need that one. The math model is written in the summary, and we've stated the conclusion. So you've gone through your checklist. Everything is complete on that one. All right? So that's how we go about using the computer to graph our data and find a mathematical model when we have a linear relationship.